Well, hello. Yes, cancer diagnosis. Got it on, why is this doing this? Hold on a second. Let me fix this. There it is. All right, cancer diagnosis. 17 July 2026, finally figured out what was going wrong with me. And it took a whole year. And we're going to talk more about this as I move along. I'll share the story. But let me first share with you the three primary reasons. Hello, Danya. Thanks for being here. You've been such a great support for Elka and I throughout all this. Let me share with you the three primary reasons why I wanted to do this Facebook Live and share with everybody what's going on with my health. The first one is I really believe in the power of prayer. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have cancer. I think just about everybody, especially by the time you get into your 50s or 60s, knows somebody that either has had it, maybe even passed from it. I know we lost somebody a couple of years ago. It was a total surprise over in Austria. And or a family member, maybe a friend, or maybe themselves. You yourself have had a cancer battle. I know I got a lot of friends that fall into that category for sure. So the number one reason for sharing this is power of prayer. And I'll go into each one of these in a little bit more detail. The second one is maybe somebody else has a similar story to what happened with me. Not getting the answer with the doctors just scratching their heads. I mean, they could not figure this out with me. And come to find out, that is true for a lot of people that have the type of cancer I have. So we'll go into a little bit of that. And then the third reason is I would like to build a community for people that have this type of cancer that I have, which is NET, neuroendocrine tumor, to build a community and that we can learn from each other. And I'm going to share with you my ideas behind how to do that as well. So let me get into the story. Some people that know me really well know that I have been dealing with a severe gut issue for the past year. In fact, it's almost my 1 year anniversary. It all began on the 24th of July, 2025. And in that time, I wanted to show you the book that I built. But in that time, I would have bouts of pain in the gut area. This was all centered in the gut. And the pain was excruciating at times, to the point I could not get out of bed, screaming, totally bent over, and there was nothing I could do to get rid of the pain. And that was strange. At first I thought maybe it was just some food that I ate. And, it was like a little bit of food poisoning, right? But normally that clears up after a day or two. But this went on for like 3-4 days. And then it did clear up. And for a week, I was totally fine, week to 10 days. And then all of a sudden it hit again. I'm like, what the frick is this, right? Well, it did that kind of cycle. 7-10 days off, 3-4 days on of the excruciating pain. Couldn't eat a couple times, or often couldn't get out of bed. I finally, one night, I was up all night on the floor with a lot, hi Bren, with a lot of freaking pain. And around 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was downstairs, Elko was up in bed. I finally drove myself to the hospital, and they scratched their heads. They didn't know what to do. They did some blood work. They did a initial scan. I can't remember if it was an MRI or CT scan at that point, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then the pain passed, as it always does. And plus I waited too long probably to go to the hospital that night. And so came home with no answers. And then I started seeking out a GI doctor. I found one over in Vail, and he scratched his head. So this is going on month after month. So now we're through July, we're into August. No answers, no help from anybody. They can't figure out what's going on with me. They got all these kinds of theories they're throwing out. And I do samples, the GI map, more and more blood work. And then in September, this is really important part of this story. This is really probably the most important part of this entire story. And again, I'm sharing this. The second reason, thank you, Donnie, for putting that in the comments. The second reason is because some other people may be suffering and they don't know what is going on with them. And there's two primary locations in the body that this shows up. One is the lungs, and then the other is in the gut, like I have. But there can also be in the pancreas. It can be also in different areas of the body, okay? But the gut and the lungs are the two primary places. So anyhow, I end up going to the hospital again. They're like, what is going on with this guy, right? And I have an MRI, I have a CT scan done, I have an ultrasound. They're looking at the gallbladder, and they just can't figure out, what it is that's going on with me. And the CT scan, I had one like several years prior for something, I can't remember what, and they saw a very, very tiny lesion in my liver. They couldn't figure out what it was. It didn't look like anything, so they didn't do anything about it. In September 2025, so I've been to, August, July, August, September. I'm into this about 2 months, and the result comes back, and the radiologist doesn't think anything of it, but there's 2 tumors in my liver, or 2 lesions, excuse me, not tumors, lesions in my liver, and they can't figure it out what that is. It doesn't look like anything they typically see. And so I went and saw my primary care physician, Dr. Jolly here. She's amazing in Silverthorne. And Elka and my sister, who was visiting at that time, and she went with me to this appointment. And that's where she says, there's something here, we don't know what it is. And I'm going to order you a PET scan just to make sure it is not cancer. And I'm like, yeah, right. Cancer? Are you kidding me? I don't get cancer. That's not in my cards at all, right? And I saw the reaction on Leah and Elka, and I'm like, don't worry about it. Ain't gonna be no thing. So I go and do the PET scan, and it was no big thing, right? It comes back negative. See, I told you, I'm not gonna get cancer. Are you crazy? But the pain cycles continue to happen, and at times worse and worse. And the frequency became more and more. And so I'm working with my GI doctor. He's totally out of ideas. And the doctors that I'm seeing are completely out of ideas. And I keep seeing more doctors. Now let's just kind of go into December, January, February. We go over to Europe for the Olympics, right? To Italy and Germany. And for whatever reason, we got some theories. But for whatever reason, I was feeling fine. I didn't have any problem. I got to enjoy my vacation over in Europe. And that was a blessing from God, because the issue was still there. But I had reprieve of it. For that time, we were over in Europe until and visited my cousins. We had a great time with that. And then, hi, Gina. Nice to see you, my niece. And then the night before we're to fly home from Germany back to the States, I have an attack. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's returned. And the flight home, needless to say, was pretty uncomfortable, to put it mildly. We had on a trip to Hawaii with Gina and my sister and Elka. That was back in August. I kind of forgot that part of the story, but I had 2 major attacks while I was over there, because it takes me out of being able to do it. I can't live a normal life. If you know of anybody like that right now, or yourself, somebody, acquaintance or family member, and they keep going back to the doctor and they can't figure out what it is, I encourage you to listen to the rest of this story. So anyhow, we come back from Europe and it's gotten worse. Definitely worse. And now it came with a vengeance. I dropped probably 30 pounds, 25 pounds, maybe lost about 5 or 10 pounds up until this point. But when we came back from Europe, man, the weight just evaporated off my body. I lost all my muscle mass, feeling like absolute crap. And the GI doctor keeps scratching his head. He's got no answers for me, right? Seeing other people not helping me. Hi, Marnie. Amanda, oh, good to see you on here too. They just kept scratching their heads. So this is July. So in May, end of May, I had a scheduled appointment with my GI doc. Elke and I are driving over to Vail, which is about an hour away. Let's just call it an hour. And halfway there, the office calls and said, the doc's not going to see you today because there's basically nothing he can do for you. I'm like, what? I'm like, do you understand the level of pain I live with every single day? And I'm just asking for an appointment because I need to explain how this thing is evolving. I mean, I can feel my intestines rolling around in my stomach. I can watch my stomach move like this. You can actually see it on the outside. All this movement is going on. I said, we've got to come up with an answer. And he wouldn't budge. And then their supervisor got on the phone and nope, he's not going to see you today. I'm like, wow. Talk about healthcare, right? Talk about a doctor. If anybody would like to know who it is, I will be happy to share that privately. I will not do it publicly. But I was very, very disappointed. Now, his assistant, his PA, is Elisa, and she's phenomenal, and she's been great, and I'm still working with her. But we left back home, right? He didn't see me, and I was very upset. And so I got on the computer, and I was like, I need freaking help now, and Western medicine has no answers for me, so what am I going to do? And I found an integrative medicine in Denver. I had a conversation with them. I really liked what they had to say, but it was very expensive, right? Because healthcare or insurance doesn't cover integrative medicine, right? Because it's not Western medicine. And I think everybody has probably been through this track or knows somebody that has. And, you talk about insurance and how it all works. It really is a challenge. I mean, we have some of the best medical care in the world here in the United States. We have the most highly trained doctors in the world here. We have some of the most amazing facilities here in the United States. But there's two issues. One is the insurance and the healthcare system. And I don't disagree that there's a challenge with all that. And then two is that they are not trained in Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, nutrition, right? These Western trained medical doctors. So they look at any kind of issue you might have kind of through a soda straw. They're not looking at the big picture of what's going on with the body, all right? Now, I told you that PET scan coming back negative was a very big part of this story. And it was. So anyhow, we go to sit down with this integrative medicine lady, and and she's going through the history, and yeah, the PET scan was negative, it's not cancer. So then she starts trying to figure out what's going on. And she orders a very, very extensive blood test, very different from what Western medicine had been taking of my blood thus far, and also another GI map to find out what's going on in my gut, overall gut health. And they can really determine a lot from this. Now, another part of all this that has been going on is I had H. pylori, that my GI doctor found in a biopsy, but he never reported it. 87 days, 3 months before that GI doctor's office told me I had H. pylori. So that is building my system that whole time. I also then developed SIBO. And when the SIBO was first identified, the beginning of this year or so, we thought, all right, we found it. That's the answer. It's SIBO, which stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then there's two types of that. There's methane and there's hydrogen. Well, I had the methane, which is more severe. And so we're like, okay, so we treat for that. But nothing was changing with what was really going on with me. So I was really kind of concerned. So we go to this integrative medicine. Hey, Tiffany, how are you? So we go to this integrative medicine lady and we get these results back. We have a teleconference with her, and she is blown away. She has never seen, there's issues there. The H. pylori, some of it was still there. At least it was indicating the SIBO was still there, but hydrogen and methane. We thought we had gotten rid of the methane at this point. But when we got to the intestinal part, the numbers were freaking, she said, I've never seen anything like this. And the white blood cell count was off the charts. And there was other markers that were completely out of whack. She's like, what the frick is going on with you? And so she, taking a more natural approach, I ordered $1,400 in individual supplements and to try to work this out naturally. And if there's a way to do this naturally, I want to do it. There was another piece of the puzzle here that this is really another blessing. I've got so many blessings in this journey. You know, a lot of people maybe go down kind of a negative way with such a realization of what's of what's going on with them. But pretty much thus far, I've been pretty upbeat and positive. And one of our neighbors here, I have 2 neighbor doctors, which is pretty amazing, right? Mark, who runs the ER department at our local hospital, St. Anthony's in Frisco. And then a highly, highly recognized oncologist, Richard, who lives a couple doors down. I didn't really understand a pancreatic oncologist, right? I mean, if you know anything about pancreatic cancer, that's really, really bad. I really didn't understand. Like I said earlier, cancer? That'll never happen to me. I am such a healthy guy, active, and I take a very powerful supplements that keeps me vibrant and everything else. Cancer just was not in the ball of wax. Hello, Melinda. Anyhow, in October of last year, this is the other piece that I kind of left out. It's a really important part of the story as well. God bless Richard and his wife, Christina. Anyhow, he says, I want you to see this gentleman, Dr. Sanchiwani. Now, Richard and Dr. Wani both work at this cancer clinic in Denver. I can't get this approved through the VA. So I'm working this. And finally in May, so October I started it, and finally in May I got to see him. And we decided to do an upper endoscopy because he wanted to make sure there's nothing going on with my pancreas. This is his specialty, is endoscopies. So so that's in the ballpark, so that has been scheduled from May. We scheduled that for the 16th of July, last Thursday. Right? I mean, the timing of all this and all these blessings, like I say, and I've got a very positive, upbeat mindset about it all. I understand, I've written that book, Discovering Your Authentic Truth. I understand how the mind works, and I'm not going down that negative pathway, right? I am looking at possibilities. And hey, Amy, and if you've ever read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, it's a very, very powerful book. And if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to read it, especially if you suffer like things like depression or you're going through a challenge in your life, personal challenge in your life. And so I have all that training, right? I have trained my mind how to handle negative situations. And it's amazing. So last Monday, okay, now we're going to get to the crust of it, right? And there are those 3 things, right? The power of prayer helps maybe somebody else. And also, you see the hummingbirds flying around here. Also, the community. So those are the 3 reasons. I haven't gotten to that part of it yet, but I wanted to share the story. And I know this is long, so if you got to hop off, that's fine. If you're joining late, that's great. You'll be able to watch the rest of this in a recording. I encourage you to watch it through because, again, there's hundreds of thousands of people walking around with this cancer that I have and do not know it. and to be diagnosed with it is a trick, right? So let me bring you up to speed for what happened last week. Monday morning, I wake up, I'm feeling okay. I had attack over the weekend and stuff, but I was starting to feel pretty good again. And we have our team meeting, for our business. Goes pretty good. I'm still feeling pretty good. I'm going to try to sneak in 9 rounds of golf this afternoon, right? And I go out to the course, I start with a range, and I start swinging. So a lot of this kind of motion, right, can really aggravate. I found that can really aggravate the gut. Stress would really aggravate it. I went on this whole FODMAP, low FODMAP diet because of the SIBO. And what that is a very low, you eat foods that are low, create a low fermentation process within the gut. So you avoid excess fermentation in the gut, right? So I've been on that since mid-April. I mean, we've tried everything, believe me. And I've had other tests along the way. I'm not covering everything. I got this book. I was going to have it out here with me. I was going to show you. It's about this binder. It's about this thick right now. And it's just the highlights of what's gone on. I've got an entire journal, every single significant event that's happened. It's now 7-8 pages long over the course of this year. Okay. So let me explain what happened last week, Monday. So I go out and do this golf, and I'm like, oh man, it's starting to bother me a little bit. We're on about the 5th hole, and I'm like, oh my God, I still got 4 more holes of golf to get through, at least to get through the front 9, before I can get off this course. By the 8th hole, I was thinking about calling 911. The other 3 people that I'm golfing with, which I just met that morning, they're like, you need to do something. They're like, what are you doing out here? I mean, I was bent over pain. I'd walk up to the golf cart or the golf ball. You get out of the cart, you walk up, and I'm all hunched over like this, going my gut. And I'm like, oh. I'd stand up, shoot the ball, and then I'd be like this, get back in the cart, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm a man of action. Well, by the 8th hole, I was done, and somehow made it to the car. I drove myself home, and as I'm driving up, Elka was outside, and I said, Elka, we're going to the hospital. This is the first time of my 3 prior visits, because the hospital couldn't do anything for me, right? They're like, okay, well, I don't know. We could order more tests. In fact, Elka and I had just been to the hospital like 6 weeks prior, and that's what the surgeon said, or the doctor on call said. He goes, well, I could order more tests, but why, this is just not going to show anything, so why even do it? Well, remember this PET scan back in September, and the CT scan and the CAT scan and all these freaking tests I was doing, and everything wasn't showing any cancer. Well, this last Monday with that attack I had on the golf course was incapacitating. I have never, ever, and I will tell you, I've broken my knee. I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, but I've never experienced pain like I had this past year with this gut issue. And I went to the ER, and I literally walked in the ER. I threw the lady behind the counter my ID card, my credit card. I said, I'm on file here. And I was screaming, literally screaming out loud in the emergency room. They take me back, and I see a couple doctors, actually, or the one doctor and then somebody else. I saw like 3-4 nurses. They put me on an IV. They gave me some painkillers, some narcotics. I think I got fentanyl. First time I ever had fentanyl that I know of. And it helps calm things down, which was good. And then they ordered me the doctor came in. She goes, I want you to have a CT scan. I said, that is the only thing I'm asking for, is while I'm having this attack, to have a CT scan done. For the results from that, oh, this is interesting too. It was a traveling nurse. He wheels me back. We do the CAT scan, and we're having a conversation where he's wheeling me down the hallway. I'm on the gurney, right? And I made a comment, and I said, what this has given me over the last year is a real appreciation for those, the good stuff, Amanda. What this has given me appreciation for is for people who are really struggling with a life-threatening disease like cancer. 30 minutes later, Tracy, the doctor on call, says, we're sending you down to St. Anthony's in Loveland down in Denver. We don't have the facilities here that we think you need. And I'm like, what the frick are you talking about? There are now, it's gone from 1 lesion to 2 lesions to now 3 lesions in your liver they're a little bit bigger, and we need to get this biopsy. So I get ambulance down at like, I don't know, midnight or something like that. And first time I was ever in an ambulance. And they also put an NG tube in my nose. So they take this long tube, they measure the whole thing out, they stick this thing up in the nose, it goes down into the gut because they want to start pumping out my stomach. Because the other thing that the CT scan showed was a twisting of something in my bowel, and it was restricting everything, and that's what was causing all the pain. So we get down to St. Anthony's, nothing happens that morning, or that night, excuse me. I pretty much go to bed, couldn't hardly sleep. Tuesday morning, the surgeon on call is Dr. Babcock, amazing lady. Her and Tracy, the doctor up here at Frisco, had a long conversation that night about my situation. She walks in, and she's sitting down facing me, and she goes, okay, tell me what's going on. I'm about 5 minutes into my story, and she stops me. She goes, listen, Guy, there's only 3 things that could possibly be causing you that kind of, hi, Elizabeth, there's only 3 things that could possibly be giving you that kind of pain over an entire year's period of time, and nobody's been able to help you. There's only 3 things. And, okay, I'm all ears. She goes, a hernia, which I didn't have. I have a very small hiatal hernia, but that's not what she was talking. She's talking about like a hernia. Scar tissue from a previous abdominal surgery. Nope, never had that. She goes, then it's the 3rd thing. It's cancer. It's the only thing that would be causing that kind of pain over that period of time. So at that point, I kind of succumbed to the fact that yes, and it explained it, right? That this is cancer. And they do the biopsy that day, and we get the results. Back to Richard, my neighbor, the pancreatic oncologist, and his friend, Dr. Wani. Well, guess what? That appointment I made 2 months out was Thursday last week. So they also wanted me to get an upper and lower endoscopy. Well, their GI team was totally booked and totally solid. I was there for 3 days, never saw a GI doc, which is why I was sent down there. Pretty funny, actually. But I had this appointment with Dr. Wani. So on Wednesday, I was still at the hospital down there in Loveland. The nurse I had was unbelievable. Many of you know that my daughter's a nurse. She's a prenatal nurse that deals with the challenging pregnancies where they know there could be some really bad things happening during the delivery process. Well, and she's won some of these Daisy Awards and stuff. I mean, she's really, really super gal. Well, this nurse I had on Wednesday, which is different from the previous 2 days, was flipping amazing and reminded me of my daughter. That kind of attention. It was just attention. You don't have to do that, right? You don't have to take that extra step and that extra care for a person, but she did. She was really different. And Lauren was her name. And so I was on the phone with Dr. Wani's office about this procedure because I was scheduled for a upper endoscopy. And Lauren goes, hey, and she grabs the phone and she goes, hey, look, this guy also needs a lower endoscopy now. Can you get that fit in? And she just took charge. It was freaking awesome. And needless to say, between her hard work, this incredible nurse, Lauren, the VA, and Dr. Wani's office. In fact, I sent Dr. Wani a message just saying, hey, this is what's going on. He gives me a call while I'm in my hospital bed at St. Anthony's. And he's like, Guy, whatever you need, let's make this happen. Hi, Ellen. Let's make this happen for you. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, these are highly, highly decorated, respected, recognized surgeons working for a cancer center that is one of the premier cancer centers in the world. And he's calling me saying, I want to be able to help you. What do we need to do? I'm going to tell my nurses to do this, this, and that. Needless to say, in 12 hours, or about 6 hours or 4 hours of actual leg work, we have it on the books. It goes from a 30-minute appointment to like an hour and a half, 2-hour appointment with this guy, which I'm sure his schedule is fully booked, but he made it happen. Hey, Bull, good to see you. Boy, I love it. And so I finally get released on Wednesday night. We had to wait around for like 5 hours for the oncologist to show up there. And she kind of goes through the whole story again. She's like, I'm so sorry. Every doctor I see goes, you should not have had to been suffering for an entire year without knowing what's really going on with you. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little long-winded here, and I'll start speeding it up. But it's important, and the reason why I'm going through all these details is because I know for a fact there are people out there that are dealing with what I'm dealing with, and they're not getting any answers from the doctors. That is that's the second point I've got here, and I think it is just so important that people know about this, okay? So we get the upper and lower endoscopy. So I have to leave. Here's the funny part of the story. So we leave the hospital, have to rush back home because Walgreens is about to close, and I have to pick up my prescription to start the cleanse for the colonoscopy, right? Talk about hell week. And so I start the cleanse, and then this appointment is in the morning at like 9 o'clock. I think it was 10 o'clock. I had to be there, 9 o'clock to whatever register. And I'm like, Elka, and this is a 2-part cleanse. It's in the evening, and I had to do it all over again in the morning. I'm like, Elka, there's no way we could be driving all the way down to Denver while I'm drinking this crap to poop and get my system cleaned out. I said, no way. So we get up. So, I mean, I've already had a very long week, right? Monday into the emergency room with the lack of sleep. I've hardly slept in these 3 days. And now I'm doing this freaking cleanse for this emergency colonoscopy. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this while we're driving down there to Denver. So we make the decision to get up at 4 a.m. to get down to the hospital. We pack all these bags. I'm sitting on the floor where the colonoscopy is going to happen in the lobby area, right next to the bathroom. And I'm drinking this crap, having to run back and forth from the bathroom. I think I ruined 3 pairs of underwear in the process. I mean, it was just awful, right? So, I mean, what a week. Anyhow, a little humor interrupt. So we get the endoscopies back, or done. And now it's Thursday. Hi, Laura. And Friday, I'm still waiting for the biopsy, right? And they told me it could be anywhere from 3, 5, or even 7 business days before you're going to know anything. Friday, I checked the portal at 5 p.m., and there's the report. And I looked at it, I go, is this the report, or is this something else? I mean, is this the actual biopsy results? And I send it off to my other doctor friend here, Mark. And I go back and reread it, and I go, oh my God, I got cancer. Neuroendocrine tumor at a G3 level. They go G1, G2, and G3. G3 just means that it's at a point where it's starting to reproduce itself more rapidly. That's the easiest way to kind of explain that. I've learned more than I would ever have cared to know about neuroendocrine cancer, or NET, is how it's abbreviated, than I would ever have cared to know. But that thing that was interesting in this biopsy report is that they believe it was within the gastrointestinal system, and what's showing up in liver are just kind of like byproducts of the main tumor. But there was no doubt now that it is cancer. Now, I kept mentioning a couple times, if you've listened to this whole long saga that's been going on for 35 minutes now, I had that PET scan back in September. Turns out that PET scan would never have picked up my type of cancer. It requires a special machine, requires special contrast to be able to identify it through a PET scan. It's called a pedota or something like that. It's a very special type of PET scan for this cancer. The blood test, typical blood test, this cancer is not going to show up in that. So the realization starts setting in, And I start sending out messages. I send it to Richard. I send it to Dr. Wani, who I had his personal email address. Again, another blessing, right? I send it to some other people that I trust. Brad and Marcia Hager, the owners of Sealy by Design, the company we work for, who we're really close with personally as well. And they research everything. These people are amazing. They don't just run this company, like sell some supplements and try to make some money. No, that's not what they do. They research natural remedies for everything and what are the best nutrition for the body and this and that. So I definitely sent it off to them. And then I kind of looked it up myself and find out, give you some quick numbers, only about 12,000 people a year get this or identified with it. But those numbers are going up. They really had, it's a nerve cell, all right, within your body. And they used to call it something else, begins with C, Corson or something like, I can't remember the name of it. They used to call it that kind of cancer. But what they found, hi Linda, what they found is that this is a different type of cancer than that which they used to identify it with. And that just happened within like the last 5 years or something like that is my understanding. Maybe longer, but that's my understanding. So anyhow, I start looking at this stuff and the encouraging news, you know, I'm thinking it's primarily in my liver, they can just cut it out, no big deal. But then I went back and read that report again and realized it's not in the liver, it's actually probably somewhere in my intestines is where we believe it is. And it's a very popular place for that to sit. But you know, like 12,000 people a year get diagnosed with it, but a couple 100,000 people are walking around with it and don't know it. Hey, Don, thank you. Appreciate that. So we're still waiting at this point. We're still waiting the biopsies from the upper and lower endoscopy. The good news was my colon looked clean and my pancreas looked clean. So that was very, very good news. More blessings, right? And as I'm talking back and forth with Richard now, and he's not living, they're just part-time here. He actually moved away from here. He's living out east. He took a much better job out there even. We're having these conversations. He says, Guy, let me tell you something with this cancer. Oh, and Mark talked to his cancer doctor because Mark survived cancer twice, bone cancer. He almost died twice. And he talked with his cancer doctor, and he said, there's a guy here in Denver maybe you ought to look at. But he was telling Mark that this requires a very specially trained oncologist. He says, you don't want to just go to your mom and pop oncologist with this type of cancer. And so I'm having this conversation with Richard, and Rich is like, I really think you need to go to Anschutz there in Denver. Turns out he hired the staff of the NET department that I'm going to be going to see. Are you kidding me? What are the chances of that? My neighbor. And so, like I said, I'm going to try to shorten this up. We've got the specialized PET scan that I need done Tuesday, and this coming Tuesday. And then on Thursday, the VA has been absolutely amazing, and they were able to work it out, so I'm going to be able to have that appointment. I have to have another 3-phased CT scan where they take pictures before the dye, during the dye, and after the dye. And then I have to have this blood test that's very specific for this NET cancer. And then I'm going to meet with the team. It's going to be anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 doctors, depending on what they determine is actually going on with me. From there, we're going to have a treatment plan. And with that treatment plan, from that point forward, Elke and I are going to have to make some really serious decisions of what we're going to do and what path we're going to take. And that is point 3 of the 3-part deal. Okay, so let me cover those 3 points. So that's the story. That's where we're at. The last couple days have actually been pretty good. I've been not in a whole lot of pain. The biggest thing I have is a lot of gurgling going on. It's annoying. I couldn't sleep last night because of it. But let me just kind of bring you up to speed of where we're at now. And those 3 points. The 3 points were the power of prayer. When this all started happening last week and didn't know what was still going on, remember when I went to the emergency room and ambulance down, I'm like, what the frick? And I started reaching out to my inner tribe to start praying for me because we don't know what is going on. And I was really scared at this point. And I can tell you those prayers were being answered left and right. It's unbelievable, the power of prayer. And you may or may not be a believer, and that is your prerogative. But if you're not, and you ever feel lost within yourself, I highly encourage, and I'll be happy to have that conversation. I would happy to share my own journey with my faith with you, because until you have Jesus in your heart, there's a spiritual part of you that is absent. And I believe that with everything in my being. So the power of prayer, and that's what I'm asking for. That's the primary reason I'm doing this Facebook Live, is because I'm asking, if you are a praying person, to keep me in your prayers, along with anybody else that's suffering with cancer. Throw that in. We've got dear friends, or not dear friends, but pretty good friends. Michael and Lisa had business partners from long ago. He's been battling a type of pancreatic cancer. He's back in the hospital again. So again, we all know somebody that's probably right now going through a cancer battle, but I am asking you for that personally. And I appreciate the prayers. Another dear friend of ours, Natalie, she has gone out of her way sending me personally recorded meditations directed totally towards my specific situation. She set out this whole prayer. She had a table sitting outside, a whole prayer ritual, what do you call that, thing for me, and saying prayers for me day and night. I've had April. I've had Danya. I've had so many people. Bride Marcia. And I thank them not just for being a sounding board, but their thoughts and prayers. And my family, of course, too. My sister and nieces and my daughter, Ashley. Okay, so the power of prayer, it's very, very powerful. And the more people that are focusing that energy into a single individual, the greater that can happen. I've seen so many stories. I'm not going to make this any longer than it needs to be, but I've known so many people that have been healed through the power of prayer. And I believe that we are all, there's Natalie, thank you, Natalie, and Donna, hi, nice to see you too, that there's a lot of power in prayer. The second reason, as I've kind of been explaining throughout this 45 minutes, is that there's a lot of people that are suffering. My sister is amazing. She's a chemist. She's in the medical field, and she's been great. Here's the reason why that negative PET scan in September was so significant. The doctors couldn't connect the dots. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and they couldn't put it together. Because the PET scan was negative in September, like, they ruled out cancer as a possible cause. If that hadn't happened, then maybe we would have discovered this a lot earlier, right? And the other thing was, with that, is without that positive test of the cancer, this is still brewing inside me, right? And it's getting stronger. So who else may be going through something like this? And I'm not saying they got this, all right? But again, it's still only a couple 100,000 out of hundreds of millions of people have it, but maybe they do. And my sister sent me this, and oh my God, she finds this while I was still in the hospital back in Loveland last week, about how the liver and small intestines will throw crap back and forth when something's out of whack. And it started explaining everything. All of a sudden, that whole jigsaw puzzle in my mind's eye came together, and the pieces fit perfectly, and we had the picture. So, if you do know of somebody that may be going through something like this, maybe they can benefit. And then that's going to lead me to the third point, and that is community. I know there are people who have gone through NET, neuroendocrine cancer tumor. Barbara Fearon, another business partner of ours, was familiar with it. It blew me away. You just don't know, because it's not something, hey, let's get a couple beers and talk about cancer. It's not something you normally do, right? But it's amazing how many people are educated in this illness because so many people are affected by it these days. But to build a community. So here's what I'm going to do. There are people that have NET. There's people that have survived NET. And I would like to track that into a community. And so what I did the other night when I couldn't sleep is I started a website. I haven't done anything with it, but the website's built, it's published, it's out there. And it's called netcancerjourney.com. NET, November Echo Tango, cancerjourney.com. On that website, I plan on doing blogging my journey, putting up different things as they come across or I learn about what's going on with this cancer, the latest research and stuff like that. So people have another place to go to find very concrete information, not just all the hoopla and stuff like this, not a hour-long Facebook Live or YouTube video trying to explain everything, but somebody that maybe something like this may be going on with somebody you know or they know or is been diagnosed with it, that they have a place that they can go and find some really concrete information. All right. And then I also started a Facebook page, which I haven't done anything with. I just built it. I put one post on there. I didn't want anybody to know about it really until I did this Facebook Live. But I am going to invite my entire 5,000 friends to this Facebook page. Now, please don't be offended if you get this invite and you don't want to have hey, Phil, you don't want to have anything to do with this. That's fine, all right? Please understand. I'm doing it to help build the following, to help people's realize that this is out there, this type of cancer is out there, and there may be somebody else suffering with it or is going undiagnosed like I was for a whole year. So that's the reason why I'm starting the Facebook page. I'm going to invite you. Maybe this resonates with you. Maybe you know somebody. You can accept, deny the invite. It's totally up to you. My feelings are not going to be hurt. I'm doing this because I want to be able to help other people and they don't have to suffer like I've been suffering for the past year. It's been bad, folks. So my sister found a podcast that I'm going to post both on the Facebook page and onto the web page that explains this cancer in different ways and how people get their lung removed because they can't figure out what's wrong with them. You remember I said it can show up mostly in the lungs and in the just GI tract. Had lungs or parts of lungs removed because the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with them. I don't want that to happen to somebody. Why not go and have this special PET scan to be able to look for the neuroendocrine tumor so you can identify this quickly and get treatment. You know, Richard, this pancreatic oncologist neighbor that I mentioned, hired a lot of the staff, which I didn't know that until just yesterday. He told me that this cancer center here in Denver, Anschutz, is probably the premier cancer center in the entire world for this NET cancer. It might not be the number one, but it's one of the few, and people do fly in from all over the world to go to this cancer center. What a blessing. It is in my backyard. Again, there's so many blessings with all this. And so that kind of information I can and maybe help you with too. I know there's some really top facilities out on the East Coast as well. And that came up in that podcast. Anyhow, so we're winding it down. That was what I wanted to share with all of you on this Facebook Live. I got cancer. I'm not owning it. It's what I've been diagnosed with. When we get the treatment plan after next Thursday, Elka and I got to decide if we're going to go a more naturopathic route, which I don't know how much of that is out there for NET, or if we're going to just stick with this cancer center and get it licked in the bud. Hi, Tom. So that's where we're at. I appreciate each and every one of you that were on this live and stayed on this live throughout it all. Your prayers help somebody else realize that this is out there. If they are suffering with something and they can't get a diagnosis, please share this Facebook Live with them. I'll put it up on a YouTube thing as well. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Elka's heart as well. She's been a real trooper throughout all this. I won't go into that story here, but maybe I'll share part of that story later. I will be providing updates primarily through the NET Cancer Journey Facebook page and website. I'm not going to come on this public Facebook page and constantly talk about the cancer that I've been diagnosed with, right? We're just not going to, I'm not going to do that. This is, life is too short. You got to enjoy the moment and now. And I will say this, my business has afforded Elka and I to be able to spend these last 6 years, 7 years, in a way my job never could have. Without network marketing, I would be working, still spending all that time away from Elka. You got a diagnosis, and now you're like, gosh, if only I could have spent more time with my beautiful bride. Network marketing allowed Elka and I to escape the rat race and to be able to be living the life of our dreams. And it's been absolutely wonderful. And I'm very, very blessed, and thank Brad and Marcia Hager for starting this amazing company. I have another funny story. I woke up Wednesday morning in the hospital last week, and I was losing it. I'll tell you, I was losing it. I actually snapped at the nurse. I got out of bed. I said, I was fine when I came in here, and now I'm a total mess. I feel like crap. And I got out of bed and walked down the hallway. I still had the NG tube, but she had disconnected me because I had made a mess in the bed. And so I was mobile, and I'm like, I'm getting out of this freaking room. And I was just going to do laps around the nursing station, right? Well, it includes a blind spot. She comes out of out of my room. She doesn't see me. She's freaking out. She runs down to the main nurse's station further down the hall. I come back around the lap, and I see her down there. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, And I'm like, I'm here. I didn't run out of the hospital, and we get back into the room and everything, and then she leaves, and I go, you know what? I'm still mobile. And Elka had brought me my Sealy Swish, and it was sitting in a bag over by the couch. So I said, I don't care. I'm going to get some nutrition in me because haven't eaten since Monday morning. And this is Wednesday morning. And I've had my stomach pumped for 40 hours. And so I go and I take my Swish. Within 5-7 minutes, I felt like a normal person again. Holy crap. Nurse comes in, Katya from Ukraine, and I apologize because I was my normal self again. Folks, hi Sharon. Folks, this product that we do sell, and this is not what this Facebook Live is about, but it's life-changing. It has helped people with some very serious illnesses be better. Where would I have been over the course of this past year if I did not have my Swish? I would hate to think the pain and the suffering I've gone through in this past year would have been way worse without my Swish. So I encourage people to get on it, and network marketing is huge. Don't ever let somebody say, oh, one of those things. They don't have a freaking clue how powerful network marketing can be. All right, with that being said, thank you again for everybody staying on. Thank you for your prayers. Please help spread the word to somebody else you may know that's suffering and cannot get a diagnosis from a doctor. And then help me build this community. If you do know of anybody with NET, please share them this information. netcancerjourney.com, and help me build a community to help other people. God bless, and wishing you a wonderful day.